really understand from a buyer's perspective, seller's perspective, how real estate works into it, get through all the ugly, hard deals. And then once I'm through that point, of course, and have a little bit of cash, then start looking for my own portfolio.
I'm Hensay Qualah. I've spent years building a career in finance and investments. I've had the privilege of working the nitty-gritty of high-stakes deals on both the buyer and seller side. Through it all, I've studied what really makes a deal work, the intricacies, the strategy, the mindset it takes to succeed in business and entrepreneurship. And where I've learned through it all, it's really not that hard. Join me as I go behind the scenes, behind the deals with some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders. Welcome to It's Not That Hard. How you doing?
Man, I'm great. Glad to be here.
I wanted to go through on your background of previously owning a company there and then becoming a broker, your process in, selling a business there, dealing with buyers, dealing with sellers, calming down the nerves, and also what traits and skills from your background aided you in becoming successful in this area here. So starting off here, tell me a little bit about the business that you owned, the process in selling the business. What led you to want to sell your business?
Yeah, I'll start with the reason I started the business. So after college, I went to TCU, have a degree in entrepreneurial management, and I graduated, wrote several really expensive business plans. And when it came time to go actually start talking to investors, I just really did not feel comfortable without my own business knowledge or experience to say, hey, look, you give me X amount of money, I'm going to turn it into 10X or whatever it may be. And so I came up with a low barrier to entry industry and went full steam ahead. It happened to be landscaping. Started off as a little lawn care operation. I'm out there learning, hustling, figuring it out, and grew it up, had 3 managers at the end, and ended up realizing after 8 years, I realized, okay, my initial objective was to acquire my own experience and knowledge. And so after 8 years, I was like, okay, check in the box. I don't need to keep doing this because, man, I loved it. It was great. It's just, it was kind of a stepping stone for me. And I treated it like that. And so after I sold, so I guess I'll talk to you a little bit about the sell process. So I put it on the market for a while, had it on just biz buy sell, listed it for a higher price than I knew I could get. And then people would, inquire and kind of move through some things. And I'm trying to figure out how to solicit and how to communicate with these people. And so I had, my initial conversations were rough, admittedly. And then moving further and further, I kind of realized, okay, I'm going to sell the real estate with it. So I lumped it all together, made it look much more attractive and in a different buy box for a lot of people. Yeah. And ended up drawing the attention of one of my competitors that realized that we were both competing 1 and 2 in Google search, like your SEO space for the services that we were offering. And so he identified that was an opportunity for him to kind of capture more of the market share. And so he bought it. He tried to negotiate me, but then came back with the same number that I already had. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is a good deal. Papered everything up. And then took 6 months to kind of just completely decompress, just relax, kind of get my new bearings. Then I was in the process of trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to do next. One of the ideas was to acquire another company. Again, looking through biz buy sell, trying to figure out what I'm going to do, talking to different brokers. One of the brokers, bless that man, I don't even remember his name, but he asked me, you ever thought about being a business broker? And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, but I don't even know where to start. And it kind of feels like commercial real estate where it's going to take a really big network and a lot of time to kind of build into something that's even, make it pay the bills type of thing. Yeah. And so started kind of looking around, and I knew Alex Vantarakis with the Vant Group for a little while before that, just through my network, and reached out to him. He was like, "Yeah, man, I'll teach you everything you need to know. Let's go."
Oh. I'm really curious because you mentioned, you posted your business on Biz by Sell. Did you use a broker?
No.
Or you did it yourself? Okay, so I'm really curious about that because, we sell, we get people, sellers and owners to, sign up with us for us to represent them as a broker. So having the experience of you as a seller, not using a broker, what went into you wanting to do it yourself? And then how's the experience been, trying to, convince sellers that, a broker is valuable?
It's extremely valuable. Now I know that just because of the guidance and input you can get, and then also you're definitely drawing a higher value, higher price, just because of the representation is there. Wade through a lot of the BS that buyers try to put in there. But really, I decided I didn't need representation just because it was kind of on the smaller side of deals. And same with starting my company in general, I like to kind of just,
yourself
fight my way through a situation.
Yeah.
And I definitely did that, learned a lot. And that's really how I prefer to learn. And I've done a lot of that here with the Vant Group too. But really it's been great to have the team environment that we have now.
Yeah, when you were doing it yourself, did you find that valuable time is taken away from running the business? One of the things we talk about is that having an advisor allows you to focus on the main thing. And while selling the business is a whole different arena, and oftentimes you can find yourself losing sight of your business and what matters. Did you ever experience that in the process? Okay.
No, I'd been running it pretty well for a while.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have any
a good team in place and things like that. So it allowed you to sort of balance that aspect.
Yeah, it's not like I was dealing with like hundreds of inquiries, probably 10, 15, 20 inquiries. And really, as a business owner in the landscape space, if I just put it in my calendar, that's what I'm doing at that time. So it wasn't a huge deal. But I do see now, from my perspective, the new perspective that I have as an advisor, intermediary, that, of course, I mean, that's a huge value, especially if you're running, let's consider a significantly larger company in the $5 million valuation range. Yeah, I mean, you're going to take a big haircut. You start taking your eye off the ball. Yeah. And, that could cost you $500,000, $1 million in the end, and you definitely don't want to take that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So like transitioning over to being a broker, what was your experience? Your first 30 days, 60 days, what did that look like for you? What things did you see that you didn't know? You didn't know that you didn't know? And what items you're okay, I've recognized that before. Yeah. What was that like?
Yeah, I'd say I had a business plan that I was trying to pursue right before I started working with the Vant Group. And it was actually working in the automotive industry, doing like off-road modifications. So I went and worked for a shop that's what they did. I was a sales guy. I'm cold calling people. Like it was not a good fit for what I wanted to do. Although I did learn a lot, and I learned how to hustle. Of course, the discipline that I had acquired through all the things that I've done in my past carried directly into the role at the Vant Group, where I knew if I had a good system, if I operated the system the way that I had planned and designed it, and that if I followed the instructions of the senior guys ahead of me that had done it before, that were going ahead of me, that, man, there was no way to miss, really. You just keep doing it over and over. It's a numbers game. Just keep putting it in. Recently, I'll say it's been great because, of course, before I was just kind of operating, just doing my thing best that I could. And really, if I didn't have a whole lot going on, I would kind of just make stuff up, reach out to an old friend. Hey, man, network, figure out some stuff. Now I'm networking on a completely different level. and the skill of networking, which myself, I was kind of viewing networking as more just like meeting people, glad handing, and just like, oh, hey, man, like maybe we'll try to work it together sometime. And now I've realized just through developing the skill that there's significantly more than just glad handing and saying hello and like being cool with people. Yeah. It's how to connect people, how to have a conversation, ask the right questions, and then be able to apply that. And really, I'm using it as a tactic to stay in contact with other people where, hey, you do X, Y, Z. I know a guy that needs that. Let me talk to this other guy. And then if it makes sense, now we're putting people together. Yeah. And that's been a huge, huge benefit to my growth.
Absolutely. One of the things that, that the challenges, I said obstacles that I deal with, and I imagine you dealt with in the landscaping business is closing the initial client engagement, right? Signing up that client, overcoming, their apprehension to hiring a broker there. What, have you done, if you can give me some examples or anything there in experience, especially, starting off fresh in this, what challenges did you first faced when trying to sign up that first client? How'd you overcome that, and what did that look like?
Yeah, so at first, I'll take a step back. So when I was doing landscaping, I had a ton of sales experience through that. Of course, a lot of early failure, and then eventually kind of get better and better and better, and then you're closing pretty much every deal. And so same thing with M&A work. I really just did not know all of the steps that went into start to finish. Of course, I had sold my own business. I had read the books. I knew kind of what the theory was, but to like really, in my opinion, the way that I was selling, the way that I like to sell, and I was actually funny, I was just thinking about this exact thing earlier today about how having real experience, which I do have real experience now in actually transacting deals, that I can walk somebody through start to finish a deal, which really just builds my credibility that I know what the hell I'm talking about because I've done it, and that I can answer their questions on the fly as they're asking them because I actually know what the hell I'm talking about. And so it's really the same. So in landscaping, the same. Like we, of course, we're always going to run into problems. And after you've run into so many problems, you can, in an educated way, talk about it with the buyer, and then overcome those objections that they might have. Same thing here is really just building the confidence, building the credibility, and a relationship simultaneously where people just feel comfortable. They're ready to rock and roll.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely understand there that making sure that, you slot them in, understanding where their needs are and being able to identify them and address them, to close them. So tell me about, your first LOI, now you have the sell side engagement, the listing is on the market, buyers have expressed interest there. Tell me about that first LOI experience.
Yeah, good question. So my first deal was a light to medium construction equipment service and sales company. Priced about $2.5 million, a good deal, profitable, long history, good owner, good team. Everything was good about the deal. And the first LOI that I received ended up being the deal and closing the deal. He was a full list price offer. He was a guy that had been looking for a while, knew how the process goes. He drove most of the process, which was fantastic, which allowed me to really just be there and learn and kind of just be around the process and kind of guide them through. Because of course I could still advise and guide, although I didn't have the experience yet. But it was, that initial LOI, learned quite a bit how to navigate through negotiating networking capital. Buyers don't want to pin that number down, but you gotta get them to it. But really, I mean, just understanding that the LOI is really a starting point, just kind of setting the rules of engagement for how the rest of the deal is going to go. And so it's really not super serious, other than exclusivity, but really just understanding that. And so you just can kind of get creative and move forward.
How many revisions did LOI go through? Was the first one the one, or did go back and forth over? I think if it's a sale price, was there deal structure is another thing. All cash, or how much was the seller note if one was included? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was full list price. The revisions, I think we had 3 different iterations to kind of cover through the networking capital negotiation, trying to pin that one down. Yeah. Again, buyers do not want to pin that down.
And they want the most. All they are.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to leave it open so that later they can come back and, hey, man, I need, and so it kind of sweetens the deal for them. So we pinned it down. That went well.
What did the deal structure look like in the LOI there? How much was cash up front? Was there a seller note? What did that look like?
There was. So in that deal, we did 10% seller note. That's pretty standard, pretty typical. SBA lender. That was involved with the deal. So that really helps kind of keep the due diligence moving forward. The buyer knew mostly how to handle all that stuff already because he had transacted businesses in the past. So it was kind of nice to work with somebody with that much experience. But the deal structure was pretty straightforward. It was full list price, 10% seller's note, really to add a leash to the seller to increase the bank's confidence that the deal was going to go well. Really through the deal, we had some little hiccups. Kind of you were mentioning earlier about the taking your eye off the ball and potentially having some lower cash flow months than you want as you're closer and closer to close.
And that happened?
That happened. And so really all that did, it lit a fire back underneath the seller where he's like, oh, shoot, I have to actually continue to do what I've done. And it's like, yeah, no, duh. And so he ended up jumping back in, busting his butt, sold a bunch of really big, very profitable deals, and satisfied the uncertainty of those little bit slower than normal months. And so really just built up a great rapport between buyer, seller. We had a 6-month transition period. First, I think 3 months he was going to be working in the office, compensated, of course. So that was a good deal for him. Oftentimes we try to negotiate shorter than that just because we don't want people overlapping too much, stepping on each other's toes. A seller, they're running the business, it's theirs. And then somebody else wants to tell them how to run it. We try to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah. So what was the timeline from beginning LOI to closing on that one?
It was like 7 months. Just because of that, really, that's
financing.
That snag.
Okay,
it was so
the decline in cash flow.
Yeah, the due diligence process was going well, and he kept requesting new financials as we were going, as he should. But then, once he realized, oh shoot, we're not doing as good as we have historically. Hey, we need to either renegotiate the deal, lower the purchase price, change some of the terms, or we ended up doing, but the seller proposed, how about we just wait a month, see what next month looks like. And then he ramped everything up and was able to
close at that.
Yeah, quelch the issue. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So some problems in the middle there, but ended up coming to fruition, closing the deal. Have you heard of anything post-acquisition there? Anything that's popped up? So very smooth, very...
Yeah, no, everything, as far as I know, seems smooth. The seller was tired at the end. Yeah. He did not want, he was tired. The deal was hard for him. Again, I mean, 7 months is a long time to be in that weird limbo because really once nothing's done until it's done. And so you're in a weird limbo and he was tired. He was ready to be done. And so I think it was nice. He appreciated that the buyer was going to bring a fresh level of energy and then start pushing things bigger and better. Because not to say that he ran out of talent, because I think he could have continued growing it, but I think he ran out of time because he just wanted to go do other stuff.
Yeah. Tell me about the deal that had a ton of hairs on it. It wasn't an established business or as established as the construction business. Really 1 year of cash flow there, and pretty much it's like online, primarily based business. How were you able to close that one there? I know that had to be interesting, working through, even finding a buyer willing to purchase that business.
You're talking about the medical staffing company?
Yeah.
The medical staffing company, man, that was a tricky one. They, of course, had great years through COVID, but they also had other issues where after COVID, the people that they're recruiting, so it's a recruiting medical staffing company. So what they actually specifically provided was scribe services for ERs. And so the owners were ER doctors, actually extremely high level in a very large buyer, like doctors network, which I did not realize how high they were up until like the end when we were like about to close. But yeah, they were extremely well connected, but just kind of operating the business on the side. It was kind of a project that they had started like 10 years ago, and it kind of just kept growing and growing, and it was pretty big. They had a pretty successful operation in general, but they just had some slower years just because of the way recruiting and everything was changing, the way that the college students, which what they were recruiting, were just changing the way that they were responding to the same sort of inputs from them. So they had to make some transitions and shifts. But of course, that's an ugly deal. But we found a great buyer, an Indian company that was pushing everything into America. They were rolling up, not industries, but just buying a bunch of different companies. And they identified an opportunity in the medical space, and that's what they took advantage of to kind of start in that direction. They had a great management team, all different skill sets, people interchanging and moving in and out as we were going through the deal. Negotiated a set price. They had an earnout, which we'll see how that turns out.
Walk me through an earnout. What is an earnout? What was their earnout? What does that look like? What was it tied to? And how was that negotiated?
Yeah, so the earnout, they wanted to have consistency. So they were doing about $5 million in sales. The buyer wanted to ensure that the contracts that they have, which were most of them through one doctor's network, although broken up into different companies to kind of, they were different decision makers, but still all rolled up into that one. Yep. And so they wanted to just ensure that when the sellers sold and left and it became public knowledge that they were no longer with it because they were, again, highly influential just in general, that they wouldn't have a steep drop off or any drop off, really. And so really where they set their earnout at was to maintain the same relationships, revenue for the next 2 years, which for me, it ties another $75,000 per year. So another $150,000 of, that's $75,000 total. And so the portion of my commission would also come out of that.
Okay. Well. Yeah. For the purchase price there. Did the sellers have any apprehensions to the earnout or the inclusion of an earnout?
Of course, every seller's gonna have taken issue with it, although they were realistic. They understood, they were motivated, they understood. They took my advice as we were kind of navigating through the situation that this is how a deal is gonna go for their business based on the lumpy past and then really anticipating what the future will be. And so in order to solidify the deal, mitigate the risk for the buyer, this is how we need it to go.
Yeah. That's good. And overcame that, closed that deal there. Okay. Outside of, that the earnout deal and the construction deal, what do you have on your docket? What are you looking forward to this year and the upcoming years? And, how do you look to achieve those goals and really ensure that transactions are successful and your clients are taken care of.
Yeah. So actually, it's been a great week. So last week got an engagement signed for buy side, which, when things are slow, summertime's typically a slow time. I'm willing to take anything and everything. Not to say that an ugly deal I want to take, but a buy side engagement is one of those things where it creates a different perspective when you're looking at deals. So I was interested in getting into one of those. And then this week I had 2 other buy side engagements engage. One today, this morning, was like, hey man, I'm looking for an IT company in the DFW area. This is my buy box. We send me the invoice. We'll get that paid and get started. So I'm like, sweet. And then I have another guy conversation with this morning that was working with a different broker trying to find a deal for him to buy. Now he wants to shift over because of TVG, the comprehensiveness and the professionalism of the Sims really impressed him. And so he was like, I want to work with you guys. You guys know what the heck you're doing. So let's go. And so really trying to work through that with him. And that's kind of what I was telling you earlier about, I realize, okay, once I've done a deal, now I can speak to the whole deal, and that builds so much more confidence with my buyer or my client. I also have a technology seller or reseller that should have a really good valuation. They're ready to rock and roll. They want to know how much it's worth before they take it to market, but seller wants to retire. There's 2 owners. They want to retire. And then I have another government contractor type company that is trying to beat me up and negotiate over the commission, which is understandable. But from my perspective, I'm always gonna fight back, because if it don't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And secondarily, if you want representation for your sell side engagement, you want somebody who's willing to negotiate, not just like take whatever. Yeah. And so that's all of that is this week. And so it's been a big week, great week. I'm optimistic that going to get these deals through the finish line. Exciting stuff ahead here.
Yeah. So about those buyers there, it sounds like the second guy is an individual buyer. Is the IT buyer, is that a corporate buyer or company looking to acquire? Okay. Yeah,
that's a company looking to grow through acquisition. MSP, apparently, that's a difficult business to grow.
Yeah.
Although once you're pretty well established, you can grow incrementally, slowly. But really, in order to kind of jump over some of the hurdles of growth, you kind of have to do acquisitions.
Yeah, it's one of those industries where people don't switch their MSP or their managed service provider unless something bad is happening. Astronomical fees, or their managed service provider has been dropping the ball.
Yep. And that's why it makes it such a great business to buy too.
Yeah. Typically high client retention there in those businesses, and the reoccurring revenue basis there. That certainly has been, I've seen that, valuations and the importance, and, that being a focal point of what buyers like to see and what they want to see in a business, and willing to pay more for something having reoccurring revenue like that there. So, with these new things coming aboard here, it sounds like, things are, rocking and rolling for you, being a year into TVG and into broker career there. So that's extremely exciting.
Yeah, I've been, like I said, just kind of working on my system, executing the plan throughout the process. And really, once you stick to the plan, you have discipline, do it day in, day out, you're going to eventually find success. And I just felt like recently, and I tell people, I tell everybody, I'm like, I feel like I'm one conversation away. Yeah. I'm like one day away from that next thing, that next domino lining up, and then everything's just going to move forward. I think you asked about like future goals, ambitions. Yeah. Of course, really. So my goal, my dream is to, of course, start acquiring from my own portfolio. Yeah. Similar to how, Alex before us kind of had done similar things. What I'd love to do is really, really, really understand what the M&A space looks like.
Yep.
Really understand from a buyer's perspective, seller's perspective, how real estate works into it, get through all the ugly, hard deals, really understand it. And then once I'm through that point, of course, and have a little bit of cash, then start looking for my own portfolio and then building and growing that portfolio. Also, along the process, I'm acquiring a really, really nice network of people that I don't need to know how to do everything. I just need to know the right person to help me with it. So
absolutely,
that's kind of the plan. What that time frame looks like, I don't really know, but I'm thinking at least 5 years.
Yeah. Can you speak on the buyers, individual versus corporate? Do you plan on approaching them differently, and if so, how do you plan on approaching if differently? One, typically an individual buyer is one that came from the workforce. Now they want to be their own boss, while a corporate is an existing company. So how do you plan on approaching those if there's different or?
Yeah, very different. So the IT company, they have a very well-defined buy box. It's DFW IT companies. Of course, they provide a pretty wide range of IT type services. So they have a buy box within what they already are providing. So that's pretty straightforward. If there's something available, let's talk about it, or let's make an offer. Let's see what we can do. If there's nothing available, there's nothing to talk about. So it's great. But on the other side, I have a family, individuals, husband and wife team that are looking. They've done work in the oil and gas space. They've had a lot of success. They're trying to exit out of some of their positions of some old business deals that they were working on to free up some cash to then go acquire a business for their family. They're interesting because they're willing to pretty much do anything other than hospitality, restaurants. They don't want to mess with that, which I don't blame them, and I totally would advise them to avoid them as well. But they're interesting because they're speaking my language. Like oftentimes they'll, oh man, I saw this landscape company. I'm like, oh yeah, I know those guys. And I'm like, I'd stay away from it if you can, but if I know what to look for. Yeah. If that's the direction you want to go. But yeah, that's just one example of like they're willing to do whatever. So that's also, again, DFW. They want to be within hour and a half. Of course, with higher cash flow deals, they might be willing to go a little further just because the juice is worth the squeeze. And then also a nationwide, which this will be a little bit of a challenge to add some into this category, but a nationwide search for like remote type businesses, whether it's like a digital advertising or I've heard stories about, travel agencies that are remote. So they like the owner has a team, but then everybody else is like all throughout the nation. And so those are opportunities that could present themselves, although that one will be a little more challenging. Yeah,
just sort of managing with that scope and the reach and ensuring that, whenever you bring on somebody new, that they're maintain the same operating procedures. It's a little bit easier when your team is a little more centralized geographically.
Yeah, and it's also really hard because the resources that we have to find the businesses that are for sale is like biz buy sell. Yeah. And so when you have that's like one resource, everybody's looking at it, one, and then two, okay, we have a nationwide search for this very specific type of business that also everybody else is looking for because it's remote and you can do it from anywhere. So I think that's going to be a challenge, but we've got that's what their buy box looks like, and so we're going to do our best and figure it out,
get that rocking and rolling. Yeah. So and then when you in a couple of years from now, when you have the cash that you want to be able to acquire businesses in your own portfolio, or is there an industry or industries that you want to focus on, or are you going to be agnostic and just cash flow, if it meets that's what satisfies?
For me, having a good team with history is necessary. I do not want to step into a company and have to, really hustle and grind. Of course, I'm willing to work. I'm willing to put in the hours and to kind of help the team understand the vision as to what the future is going to look like. But I don't want to be the guy fixing a truck or, out there doing, B2C sales. That's hard. Not that it's something I can't do. It's just that's not what I see myself doing. Yeah. I see myself more as like the high level leadership, setting the tone, setting the direction, make sure everybody's in the right seat. Yeah. And then also rowing in the same direction. So that's what I see. Of course, maximizing and leveraging as much as I possibly can to acquire the largest company that I can with the maximum amount of cash flow. Those are other aspects that I'm looking at, but really similar to my buyers that I have now, I'm willing to do whatever. An industry doesn't scare me away other than, restaurants or something. That we're just not going to mess
That's a whole different.
We're not going to mess
that. The turnover,
it's just the people. Oh yeah, no.
So many factors. A lot easier when it's manufacturer, distributor, IT services. Right. That they're
a service that people need.
Yeah.
That everybody needs. So it's something where a huge market would be beneficial as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, knowing Alex. I think you guys met through EO there, and your journey to becoming a broker there. What are some key things, or I'd say some key points that you've taken away from Alex there that has really aided you, and you believe will continue to aid you in the future?
Yeah, man. Alex is a very savvy businessman. He is. He's also very experienced in what he does. He reads people really well. He's really good with people. So I've always admired that aspect about him. But I'll say, let's see, I think one of the things that I'd like to point out of why I ended up working with the Vant Group, of course, I had options. I had other business brokerages and things like that. There were options for me, and I did everything that I could to see them through and see what was actually the best route for me. I was with another group. I won't say their name, but they got to the final interview. I'm meeting all the partners, and they were talking about their Ferraris, which, that's great. We all want to talk about our Ferraris and our nice houses and all that kind of stuff. And then when I was spending time with Alex and his team, they were talking about God.
Yeah.
And giving back and really pouring back into each other. And that was exactly what I needed through that process. I was finding my own Christianity at the time. Now, of course, I was always a Christian, but I was really, really getting back in touch with God. Yeah. And that's one thing that I find most to me appealing about working with the group is with Christian guys where obviously they're not perfect. Yeah. Obviously they have their past. Obviously, they've done things that they probably shouldn't have done and realized it and are doing everything they can to do it better now. And that's what I was trying to do too. Yeah.
So a firm that had a more altruistic approach there, less about what we get from it, what we can take, but really more what we can give.
Absolutely.
To our clients and the experience and making sure we do the right thing for them, the ethics and the morality there up front instead of trying to get a deal through, just to get to the commission and buy myself something nice.
Yeah, exactly. And that was huge for me.
Yeah. That's big. That's very, very important. That's something, I've taken away from, my time and, what I've really wanted to apply to my career, as I've grown is that aspect, It makes me think of when I used to work back in the car business and, the whole goal was to, just to kind of get one over, all mattered was the back end, retaining that back end there, the commission, but whatever we put them in, didn't really matter as long as that, the commission and the back end with as high as possible. But it sounds like you're more driven by, what can I give in return to, to the people I work with, be it sellers, buyers, team members, and they're even someone just looking for advice or, on how to operate there, even in their faith.
Yep.
So that's big.
Yeah, there's just so many things to connect with people about. And if you're, a Christian family man, have a good education. I mean, there's just so much to just like resonates with people that, of course, builds confidence and credibility through the relationship because, we're speaking the same language, saying the same thing back and forth. And we are really a big thing that the ethical aspect where we're operating on just a different level of ethics. Yeah.
Oh, that's big. That's
huge.
Big, yeah. And you talked about earlier, and maybe close out with this, and with what mattered to you in selecting a broker there with those high quality aspects, and not only in their the deal making, but also as human beings there. I'm curious here, throughout your upbringing, through your forming your own business, and then culmination to where you're at right now there, which moments there really built that want to have to work with people that have a higher spirit or higher drive than just the money? What did you see? Because I feel like experiences craft who our present and future decision making. So what was that like this shift, or if there was a shift there that you experienced?
Man, there was a shift, and it was a woman.
All of us.
yeah, it was a woman, but I can't give her all the credit. So I grew up in a good family. Always going to church, had a Christian faith. Really was a pretty straight-laced, boring kind of kid. Played sports, had a lot of success in sports, a lot of discipline, understood what it looked like to work hard. Joined the Marine Corps, a lot of the same. I was kind of the golden boy of my units anywhere I was. I was on the All-Marine wrestling team. I'm excelling everywhere I'm going. And then I get to college, a little more of the same, although TCU is an incredible institution with a lot of great students and great people, alumni and students as well. And so really that was humbling. And then I get into actually running a business in the day-to-day hustle, day-to-day grind, and I started losing sight of really what I was going towards and started going off the path of the human nature of, these sparkly things and chasing them. And then I started dating a girl that challenged me in a different way that I hadn't been challenged before. She ended up getting pregnant. Again, a whole nother level of challenge there. And I was at a breaking point, just did not know what to do. And a gentleman came into my life, said, God forgave you. You deserve to be forgiven. Why doesn't she? And I was like, what? I was like, because I'm mad. And so, and that was just a light bulb moment for me. Realized, man, the way I've been doing it isn't the way that I should be doing it. Yeah. I need to change. I need to move forward. It was not an overnight process by any means, but there was a light bulb moment that I was going the wrong direction. I needed to change. And that's really at the time when I was looking for what I was going to do next. And I have found through that process, through that transition, a much, much greater sense of purpose. The first thing that I always am thinking about when I'm looking at how much the commission will be on different deals and what the structure could be is that top 10% going to some sort of charitable cause. Yeah. And that always blows my mind because sometimes we have some pretty high level commissions. And so I'm like, man, I'm about to donate to somebody more money than I've ever made in 1 year. And I'm like, what in the world am I? But the thing is, like, that's just the level of maturity and kind of the different man that I am operating as now than I was before.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I know that you're newly married,
Yep.
and have some little ones there. I know you have a big one that recently left there.
Yep.
What instillment did you have with your oldest, and how are you operating right now? With your wife and children.
Yeah. So my oldest, she's 19. She plays volleyball at Tarleton State.
Okay.
She's been a blessing from day one, but I've raised her basically by myself through the years since she was 3, and really, if you want a reason to get out of bed, have a kid, man. There were some days where I was just like, what am I gonna do? And it didn't matter. I just had to do something and keep moving forward. The smaller the step, the better. Oftentimes, and so just keep pushing forward. Learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot, communicated with her. A lot of times, she's trying to figure out her own stuff. I'm trying to figure out my stuff together. We're growing up together, really. I just turned 40 and I have a 19-year-old daughter. So, we were growing up together. And so really her seeing that and then understanding that, now she's like a whole person. She recently just got her first apartment. She negotiated the deal, negotiated the lease, was like, hey, Dad, I need you to co-sign. Only after she exhausted all the other options. It wasn't like, hey, Dad, I need you to do this right away. She set up all the utilities, got everything set up, coordinated, got a storage unit, started putting everything together that she needed months in advance. I'm like, did I do that, dude? Like, this chick is like, knows what the heck she's got going on. And she's a D1 athlete. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm blown away. I can't take all the credit for that. But that's
testament to you. I haven't been a single father, and raising her, as you said, as you were growing up. There, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a blessing that she turned out the way she did. She's been a massive blessing. Yeah. But then my kids, I have 2 young ones. I have a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old boy, and then a 1-year-old girl. And again, a massive blessing, kind of inversely. So my oldest, kind of through her life, it was a lot of just, what do I have to do now? What's the next step? Keep going, survival, that kind of attitude. And now it's, I got a couple bucks in my bank account. I'm not hurting for money. I'm established. I have a network of people to rely on, and I get to really just enjoy watching them grow up. And it's been just a totally different thing. Again, with my relationship with God too, that makes it all even bigger. So yeah.
Man, that's big. Yeah, thank you. Honestly, as a guy that I don't have any children, I recently got a dog.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
yesterday?
This week. As with you, my week has also been quite interesting.
Full of commitment, man. Shoot.
Yeah. What's it called? The dog person is like, 10. You've now committed 10 years of your life to something. Are you willing to do it? And I think so. There's been some week 1 challenges, potty training and things like that. But no, as a person that one day I want a family and children. That message and what you're sharing is very impactful to me. Yeah. Very touching. Something to look upon as a role model and as a guide. How I approach my my relationship with my wife and relationship with my children there. I recently turned 30, So I feel like, old man. or now, well, not old man, but now I'm a grown man. Now it's, all the things, 20s, I have to leave to the wayside and really hunker down and really think about what that next phase of my life looks like, not just with career, money, but with the family. And what ultimately, I like to think, when I lay on my deathbed one day, a guy once asked me the question years ago. I was going through a little bit of a tough moment, and I stopped by a church in North Dallas, and it was great. I guess they always kept prayer members in the front of the church there whenever random scragglers would come by, and I guess I was one of those random scragglers, and asked me, what's the conversation I want to have with myself and the Lord on my deathbed, and I've always wanted to be like, there's at least one person or people that can say, Hensay Qualah has provided value to their life, or something that truly matters. And, what you're sharing in the message about the selection of the van group, how you raised your daughter and how you approach on your career, but your personal life really resonates with that message there. How do I want it? What do I want the people in my life to really think of me, and, and what really matters to me outside of the money, the cars, the house, the women, what truly matters. So.
Yeah, man, I relate to that, man. It's a big deal to have a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And to really understand where you're going. Yeah. And work with guys that are lockstep, ready to run through any door. Yeah.
Yeah, especially and also thank you for your service as a Marine. And very funny story about when I was in college. I was approached by the ROTC program, Marine officer. I don't know if it's a Marine officer, but I don't know, Army officer, something like that. Yeah. ROTC. And kind of embarrassing story. I've told people privately, never before, but so
should you say it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's years ago. It's whatever. I can be self-deprecating about this there. Yeah. So I did a workout with them, and it was like I think like a mile or two run. Well, started off did push-ups, sit-ups, the whole pizzazz, then a mile or two run, and then another push-up, sit-up. And then ran back to the starting point, and when I got back to the starting point there, I crapped on myself. I was so exhausted, so spent. I know it's an embarrassing story, but I always say that I can never be in the military. I can never that physical. I was this realm. Speaking to you, working in M&A. This is why I can never, that physical. So, that, and they kept on calling me like, "Hey, Hensay, like, I ignored all the calls, everything. So I always give it up to guys like yourself, the guys and gals like yourself that could go through, and the guy was like, "Dude, this is like not even this is just a light workout." Like, yeah, So thank you. So I'm comfortable with sharing that. A little bit embarrassing, but hey, I'm not going to be joining the military anytime soon.
Yeah. I thought everybody in the military was like tough, tough guys, the heroes.
Yeah.
That is just not true. Bunch of regular guys. Yeah. A lot of tough guys too, but regular guys.
Yeah, well, maybe enjoy myself now. But
no, you're doing good, man.
Well, I'd say thank you very much, Ian, for taking the time here. Yeah. Coming out, spend some time with me to talk about your background, talk about your your journey to becoming a broker, your experiences as a broker, as well as your family life and certain pivotal moments in your life that has crafted you to the man that you are today and the man that you want to continue to be and live on. And I have to say thank you very much for that.
And say thanks for bringing me along on the journey, man. Thank you.